Thank you, Ed. Thank you, everybody. T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. We have liftoff. As Ed said 2 years ago, I was delighted to be sitting in a conference room, NASA headquarters, Washington, D.C. And Ed Hoffman said, what's Jay's mission statement for this story? Somebody said, well, why don't you do it about the International Space Station? That's where it's at. Somebody else said, whatever you do, you've got to cover 50 years and you've got to cover people in space and robots in space. And Ed Hoffman said, Jay, I want you to write a love letter to NASA. A love letter. How do you write a love letter to an administration? Dear administration. But still, I was freeing a love letter. So I flew off with Ed and others to Johnson Space Center. And as I flew off, I wondered, will people be open? Will they be arrogant? Well, they were very open. It was clear they loved working for NASA. I was about to interview the chief engineer at Johnson Space Center. And I thought, this guy must be tense. At the time, his job was going to be to land people on the moon 2020 to live, then land people on Mars to live. I thought, this guy probably looks like an erector, said he's so tense. But in he came, he said, I'm Steve Altemus, 45 years old, chief engineer. And he had the grace of an athlete. I said, Steve, what brought you to the work? And he reminded me of a halfback going out for a pass because he talked with his hands. He said, my great-great-grandfather Brugger built Lehigh University with his hands. He was a stonemason. That was the generation that built the scaffolding for this country. We are building the scaffolding for space. Wow. Then I'm about to interview a manager, and I thought, will he talk like a bureaucrat? The manager turned out to be Judy Robinson. I said, Judy, what brought you to the work? And Judy said, my dad was German, my mother was Austrian, and my mother was 14 the night of Kristallnacht, the night the Nazis smashed the windows of the Jews. Judy said, my mother managed to get to this country, but much of my family was lost in the Holocaust. And Judy said, I grew up hearing this story. I got a PhD, and now I'm an advocate for the safety of the astronauts. I'm paying this country back. Again, wow, all these interviews. Then we fly off to Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And I'm thinking about those interviews. So many people not only said they loved working for NASA, they talked about the failures as well as successes. So JPL, I'm thinking robots, oh, what a bore. But I was wrong. They were passionate about their work. Mike Sander talked to you today. I think Mike Sander was one of the interviews, and Mike said, I don't know if he told you this, he said when he was 8, his dad directed him to Jules Verne. And as a young fellow, the family, I guess, would drive by JPL, and he would think, whatever they do there, it's cool, it's cool. So then in college, Mike Sander had a summer job at JPL. And that was the time of Mariner 2 that was going to do an encounter with Venus. So Mike's on Christmas vacation. He had made friends, so he called in. And this was the time of the encounter. So they put Mike's phone right by the loudspeaker so Mike could hear the chatter of the encounter with Venus. And I tell you that because many of the people talked about a dream they had when they were kids. And here they are at NASA. I talked to Dr. Ed Stone at Caltech, and he said when he was 36, he was the chief project scientist for the Voyager mission. Then Ed Stone started to talk about the solar system. Well, it opened up like a flower for me. So I fly back to Massachusetts, where I live, with 1,000 pages of interviews, taking a course in astronomy, reading 40 books. But I'm thinking my job is to squeeze that 1,000 pages into my brain. And I'm getting to be nervous as an erector said. So I'm mowing the lawn one day thinking about this, and I remembered one of the interviews at Johnson Space Center, and Ed was there. We went in. And there are 3 interns, college students who are at NASA. And I'll never forget, I stepped into the room and thought, is this the future of NASA? Right in front of me, a young woman said, I'm Sarah Riga. I'm an engineering student at Georgia Tech, and I'm doing something here at NASA nobody's ever done. The next lunar lander may have 2 motors. That's what I'm working on. And I turned, this elegant young man, Daniel Arreo, says, my dad is Ethiopian, my mother's Hungarian. I've been an intern 4 times here. I come back because of the people. I'm going to get a PhD and hope to work here. The third person is a young man, Afro-American, Cecil Shy Jr. And Cecil says, when I was a little kid, I liked to make these toy cars with motors. I was good at it. In high school, Cecil said, I go into a career night and there's a Mars rover, a model of the Mars rover. And Cecil said, I can do that, why not? And then Cecil says, you know, I think of kids all over the world going to sleep, looking at the stars, thinking, I want to go there. And Cecil says, why not? And I love that. Why not? Why not? And I think, why not let go of squeezing 1,000 pages? Why not listen to what Ed said? Why not make a love story? And I thought, I will invent 2 characters who tell true stories about NASA. And the characters spring to mind, Kate and Jack, both in love, but something's gone wrong with their love. And so, my love letter to NASA is called Forged in the Stars. The time is late October 2007. The place is Boston, Massachusetts. On a windy, bright Friday morning, a young woman, Kate DeCordova, was running down a sloping sidewalk. She had a Red Sox cap on, black hair flowing out behind her, dark eyes taking everything in. In her mind, she was singing, Here Comes the Sun, checked her watch, 8:30. As long as she caught the next trolley into Boston, she'd be on time for mechanical engineering. No one was late for mechanical engineering. As she was running, she could smell the salt sea air, and that reminded her last night she'd been pouring some salt into the boiling spaghetti water, and the phone had rung. She picked it up. Kate, it's Jack. She was so startled, she almost dropped the phone. Jack Carver on the phone, her former fiancé. 6 months ago, in a fiery scene, she ended their engagement. Here he was on the phone. Kate, something exciting has happened. Jack Carver, son of a Maine lobsterman, powerful guy, getting a PhD in astrophysics at MIT, but when he was nervous, he stuttered. Listen, you know the Sunday Science series at MIT. A Russian scientist can't make it, so my thesis advisor thought, you and I could do the program on NASA. You know, it's the 50th anniversary, it's our generation. You know, you've been an intern 4 times there, and he's going to get the Boston Globe. Jack, you don't have to talk me into it. This is great. When do we do it? We do it Sunday, 3 weeks from now. I can't, Jack. I got the graduate record exams that Saturday. I can't study and prepare a program. I'm sorry, I'm getting supper. Bye. Cynthia, supper's ready. Kate's apartment mate and best friend was Cynthia Moss, who referred to herself as the bony blonde from Minnesota. Cynthia Moss. When she was a little kid, she had quite a temper. She said to her friends one day, I'm going to have a big party and invite nobody. Her temper hadn't improved. She was a basketball star in high school, St. Paul, and she was majoring in music. She loved every music, everything from Chinese opera to Sweet Honey in the Rock. Nobody ever called Cynthia Moss sweet. They sat down for spaghetti supper, and Kate mentioned Jack calling about NASA. Cynthia said, could we not talk about NASA tonight? My mother died of cancer. This is her birthday. She died because we live near a toxic waste dump. Kate, we polluted the earth, we're polluting the sky. Let's not talk about NASA today. Kate, what I want you to do after supper, I want you to listen to a CD of Blind Willie Johnson singing Dark Was the Night. Blind Willie Johnson, black man, used to sing in the streets of Dallas in the 1920s. Dark was the night. Guitar, voice, no words, there's nothing like it. Kate was thinking of all of that. as she was running, and the trolley slid on by. It would stop 20 yards ahead. She had to get the trolley to be on time, mechanical engineering. So she lengthened her stride, and 10 yards from the trolley, a yellow maple leaf was floating down. The wind took it up, and she took a chance on being late. She leapt way, way up and caught the leaf. And now she sprinted for the trolley, but the driver was closing the door. A formidable woman on the trolley said, "Wait!" He waited. Kate leapt on, showed her pass. The formidable woman said, "Please, sit here." She had a crown of white hair, pearls, handsome wool suit, black walking stick with a silver handle. She was clearly the empress of the streetcar. What a leap, what a catch. You're an athlete or a dancer. I was in a great soccer team in high school, Exeter Academy. Exeter Academy, wonderful school. Did you love it? I hated it. My roommate's dad was running the World Bank. My dad was running a little hardware store in Oklahoma. Did you stick it out? Can I boast? Boast! Senior year, I won a National Science Award, and I wrote and directed the senior play. It was about the planets. Everybody loved it except the boy who played Pluto. I bet you're a young professor now. Oh, I wish I'm 27. I thought by now I'd be at NASA. Oh, I love the Bahamas. No, the space agency. Oh, I'm sorry, what happened? A bump happened. Instead of going to Harvard, I went back home to Oklahoma. My dad had a terrible stroke. It took Mom and me 4 years to put the hardware store on firm footing. But I decided I wanted 3 things out of college: the Atlantic Ocean, I wanted to be an intern at NASA all the way through, I wanted to write at least one other play. What's your dream? My dream is to do well in the GREs and then get the PhD. No. What's your dream? What's your dream? Well, I suppose my dream is to tiptoe among the stars. That's a dream. That's a dream. I'm Edith Whiteside, Kate de Cordova. Kate de Cordova, is that a Spanish name? Oklahoma, pioneer stock, everything, Scots-Irish, English. Well, Kate de Cordova, this has been a delight. This is my stop, the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Kate got up to let Edith Whiteside go, and at the last second, Kate said, "Wait, Edith, wait, please. Take the leaf. You give me hope. You give me hope today, the mummies." The Egyptian section. "Oh no, members of the board, bunch of stiffs." "But I'll take them on because you give me hope." Kate thought Edith Whiteside was wonderful. She waved goodbye. She was laughing inside. It reminded her the way she used to laugh with Jack Carver. She had met Jack Carver 3 years ago. There was a lecture open to the public at Northeastern on Saturn's rings. It was crowded. She looked up, and there was this big, handsome guy, curly brown hair, brown eyes, old windbreaker dungarees. He bent over and said, "I just got off the lobster boat. I'm afraid I smell wicked bad. It's all right to sit down." Well, she was charmed with the Maine accent. So after the lecture, they went across the street, had pizza for an hour, and they laughed. And after an hour, she pointed out his Maine accent almost disappeared. He said, "Well, the thing is, Kate," he turned bright red, "if I'm nervous, I either stutter or I turn on the Maine accent." Halloween, Cynthia and Kate had a big Halloween party. In the middle of the party, there was a knock on the door, and Kate opened the door, and there was a big round mound of aluminum foil. Someone inside the foil barked, "Ruff, ruff, I'm the dog star." It was Jack. He was the head of the party. Springtime, one of Jack's classmates invited Kate and Jack down to Pocasset, at the edge of Cape Cod, to go sailing. So they started out on a little inlet, and a squall came up. Kate shifted the wrong way. The boom knocked her into the water, so Jack dove in to save her. Kate just swam over to the bank, climbed out. Jack swallowed the salt water, was coughing. She pulled him out when he was fine. She pushed him back in. Well, she was thinking about all of that. And the trolley went by Northeastern University, down into the tunnel. When she got out, she ran back, but she was late for mechanical engineering. She pulled the Red Sox cap, went in the back, and the professor said nothing, because Kate de Cordova was the best student she ever had. After class, Kate went out, the leaves are blowing all around, got the cell phone out. Jack, it's Kate. I changed my mind. I'll do the program at MIT. Great, what happened? I caught a leaf. Never mind, we'll do it together and we'll get Cynthia to come. Don't get Cynthia, she'll cause trouble. She's still wearing the green wig. She wears it to her science class. Listen, if we're any good, she'll learn something. Now what am I supposed to do? All right, Kate, you do 3 12-minute sections on putting people in space. I will finish with a maybe 20-minute lecture on robots in space. Jack, we'll do it this way. The next 3 Thursdays, 7 o'clock, come to my apartment. We'll run things back and forth. Bye. And then she thought of what Jack said, that he would finish with a 20-minute lecture. One of the reasons she ended the engagement, Jack had become a critical bore, and it all started when he got that tweed jacket. She hated that tweed jacket. She got busy emailing friends, professors, colleagues at NASA. She asked one question: what do you remember most about NASA? The next Thursday, Jack was coming up the stairs. Kate and Cynthia had a 3rd-floor apartment in Jamaica Plain. And Kate was nervous. She was pacing in the kitchen because Jack could be so critical. As she paced, she could hear Cynthia going down the stairs saying, Jack, well done, Jack. Kate's got the GREs, everything rides on them. You've got to doing this dumb program. Well done, Jack. A couple of seconds later, she heard Jack saying, oh, Cynthia, listen, I forgot to tell you, I found an apartment just right for you. It's on the dark side of the moon. Kate said, Jack, I'm in the kitchen. Oh. She thought, what do you do with your former lover? Do you shake hands, an awkward hug, peck on the cheek? And Jack stepped into the kitchen. His curly hair, the old windbreaker dungarees, and luckily he was carrying supper, so there was a big pizza box between them. Jack, perfect, thank you. Sit down, Jack. Jack, we'll have the pizza afterwards. I want to just start. I'm nervous. So Jack, imagine it's MIT Sunday, all right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, I'm an engineering student. I hope to get a PhD and work for NASA. I grew up in Oklahoma. When I was 5 years old, my dad and I were standing under the stars one night. And my dad, usually very practically, ran a little hardware store. Well, he was a poet that night. He said, Kate, the blackness and the stars are not just above us, they're all around us, Kate. Kate, the earth's just a ball moving. The blackness and the stars are all around us, Kate. Well, that was magic. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true stories about NASA. The first story begins in 1948 in a working class neighborhood in Oklahoma City. A 5-year-old boy ran into the kitchen and said, Mom, I heard a voice coming from way up by the sun. A voice? What did it say? It said, I'm going to help people get to the moon. She said, that's a vision. And she said, that's a vision because they were Cherokee, Osage. And their story is, they've come from the stars to the earth. She said, you have to work for a JC. His Cherokee name was J.C. High Eagle. His name in the white world, Jerry Elliott. Working for the village, the vision meant being good at physics and mathematics, and he was. He did very well in high school. So in 1961, 18 years old, J.C. High Eagle went to the University of Oklahoma. The world was opening up, and he found many of the students didn't want him. What's the Indian kid doing here? Many of the professors didn't want him. Listen, you're a fine young man. It's not your fault. It's just your people don't have what it takes to be engineers and scientists. He was humiliated, and it burned, but he had the vision, and he stuck with it. In 1966, he decided to go on to graduate school, at least get a master's, engineering. But there was no money now. His stepfather died, his mother was working, so this young man went down to the police station, Norman, Oklahoma, and said, I want to be a policeman. They gave him a test. He scored as high as anybody has ever scored. J.C. Heigl became a full-time policeman and a deputy sheriff, which meant he could take 2 courses a semester. 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning was electrical engineering. And he would wear his uniform to class with a loaded gun. But it was Oklahoma. His mother called one day and said, "J.C., there's a telegram from the Army. Open it, Mom. After report to the draft for your physical," he passed. Another telegram. "You have to go to boot camp in 15 days. It means Vietnam. Call your grandfather." J.C. called his granddad, a wise old man at his granddad's wheat farm. "Granddad, it's J.C. I'm going to boot camp in 15 days. They won't take you." "No, I have the piece of paper." "I don't believe in paper." "They won't take you." "I had a hard time getting the calf born last night. I had to hitch the tractor up and pull the calf out." "Granddad, I'm going to boot camp, 15 days. "They won't take you." "Let me tell you about the calf." He went on and on about the calf. J.C. hung up and called his mother. "He didn't listen to me, Mom. He said they won't take me." He went on and on about the calf. "He's my dad. I'm with him." J.C. was furious. The 2 people he trusted most in the world didn't listen to him. The 15 days turned into 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 days. 10 days from boot camp, he finished electrical engineering. Walking down the corridor, and there are students lined up outside the dean's office. And there on the bulletin board, NASA, interviewing today. NASA. So J.C. in uniform gets in line, says to the student in front, "What do you got?" "You got to have a NASA application, a government application, and your resume, or he won't talk to you." There's no time for any of that. The line melts. J.C. steps in. The NASA man is packing his briefcase. "What can I do for you, officer?" I want to help put people on the moon." He looks at this cop. "I'm working my way through. I'm getting a master's in electrical engineering." "Write down your phone number and your name. I got a plane to catch. Don't call us. We'll call you." The NASA man is off. 9 days, 8, 7, 6, 5 days from boot camp. His mother calls. "J.C., a man from NASA called. Bernie Goodwin. He said he talked to you. Here's his phone number." He calls Bernie Goodwin. "Mr. Goodwin, it's J.C. Heigl." "J.C., I looked into your record. You're brilliant. And you're full of fire. You're the kind of person we need. In fact, we want to hire you Monday morning, manned space center, 9 o'clock. "I can't." "Why? The draft?" "Yes, sir, the draft." "Well, you're a policeman. You know possession is 9/10 of the law. You come, we possess you." "Who runs the draft there?" "We have a colonel." "Well, we have a general." "Our general will talk to your colonel." 9 o'clock. "Yes, sir." J.C. Heigl goes home, tells his mother, she says, "Call your grandfather." "Granddad, I told you they wouldn't take you." J.C. Heigl gets his guitar, borrows his mother's car, and he drives to Houston. And he's thinking, Granddad must have negotiated a different fate for me with the Creator. He is hired. 9 o'clock, manned space center, Houston. A few weeks go by, and Chris Kraft, who becomes the famed flight director, comes over with a big cigar one day. "How do you like it here, son?" "I love it. I love the responsibility. One thing, though, sir." "What's that?" "I'm used to reading books to learn. What should I read?" "Son, we don't read books here, we write them." Soon enough, J.C. Heigl is writing the Agena Systems Handbook. He is in Flight Control Center for all of the Apollo missions. He is helping to put people on the moon. And Kate said, "That's the story, Jack. What do you think?" "Oh, wait, Jack, there's a coda. Here's the coda, all right? Apollo 13 is soon to lift off, and J.C. Heigl gets another piece of paper, jury duty down in Houston. So he goes down, and everybody knows nobody gets out of jury duty with Judge Singleton. Everybody's giving excuses. One woman is pregnant. She says, "You see, Your Honor, how pregnant I am. The baby will wait." "What's your excuse?" "It's not excuse, Your Honor. I am the lead retrofire officer for Apollo 13. "What's a retrofire officer?" "I'll calculate the re-entry angle, the command module. If it's too steep, they burn up. If it's too shallow, they flip off. They don't get back, Your Honor." "I don't usually make exceptions. I'll make one in this case. If you do me a favor." "Yes, sir." "Bring them back alive." "Yes, sir." Apollo 13 lifts off. Everything is fine, up and up. It's 200,000 miles up. JC has finished his shift, goes out, gets in the car, he's driving out, flicks on the radio. There's been an accident in space. He turns the car around, runs into Flight Control Center. Men are running around, some men are crying. Something very serious has happened, but they're not sure what. In the confusion, someone says, we got to abort. No, JC's, no! JC is afraid if they abort, the motor may be damaged and they won't be able to make the U-turn. And he says, no, you got to slingshot them around the moon. He wants to use the gravity of the moon to slingshot them back. So Jack, JC gets people to the moon, helps them get back. Now Jack, just tell me what you love about the story, that's all. Jack stood up and said, well, for one thing, you're too dramatic. Tell me what else you love about it, Jack. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate, I'm sorry. I do like the part about the grandfather. The only reason I'm at MIT, my granddad. My dad wanted me to be a lobsterman. Once I mentioned grad school, and my dad said, you won't fit in, Jack, you won't fit in. They're not your people. You won't fit in. So I went to Granddad, and Granddad said, go to grad school. If you learn enough, you can take your lobster boat to the stars. So Kate, I'm still trying to fit in. Let's have the pizza. Oh, Kate, one thing. Would you do me a big favor? Next Thursday, don't be dramatic. Well, the next Thursday, she was very nervous because she was going to be very dramatic. Jack was coming up the stairs. She was so nervous, she started to think about the best thing about Jack and the worst. And they both happened last April. Last April, Jack showed up at her apartment wearing a yellow slicker, and he had one for Kate. He took her down to Gloucester, Massachusetts, borrowed a friend's lobster boat, and they went way, way out to sea. The stars are brilliant, and the sea was rough. Jack loved it. This is his world. Kate was terrified. Jack said, Kate, I love the spray in your face, Kate. I'm going to tell you a story, Kate, that begins billions of years ago. Jack condensed the story. All right, Kate. You know Jupiter. You know how big Jupiter is? You could put 1,200 Earths in the volume of Jupiter. You know the red spot on Jupiter? A storm been raging 300 years. It's twice the size of the Earth. Oh, Kate, the first moment I saw you, I had a red spot in my heart. I love you, Kate. I love you. Marry me. Well, of course, she said yes. What a proposal. 2 days later, they were stuck in traffic in East Cambridge. Jack was nervous. He had on the tweed jacket. They were going to a departmental party at MIT, and Jack hated those parties. Kate said, Jack, I think it's wonderful. Our whole solar system is in a bubble, you know, because of the solar wind. Kate, it is not a bubble. It is a heliosphere. Would you get the language heliosphere? You got it? Heliosphere? She said, Jack, we have argued about your tone of voice for years. It's demeaning. It's insulting. You go to the party alone. I'll take the subway home. She got out and slammed the car door. She was still so angry about that tone of voice that they had fought about. The 2 days later, she biked 12 miles from Jamaica Plain to Somerville, went up to the second floor, opened Jack's apartment door. Jack, here's your ring, Jack. It won't work. And she left. And she stood outside his apartment door thinking, what a coward I am. After 2.5 years, that's the best I can do. I can't stand there and cry and shout and talk. Finally, she got the courage up to go back in. Jack was in the kitchen. She never heard anybody cry like that. The sound came from him. And so she couldn't see him because she would say she'd marry him. And it wasn't right. She was thinking of that, standing in her kitchen, and Jack came in. Kate, you all right? Yes. Oh, Jack, you brought eclairs. He had the old windbreaker on. So sweet of you. Jack, sit down. You're going to love this scene, Jack. I want Armstrong to tell his story, so I've invented a character he tells it to. You invented a character, Jack. It's a literary device. Helps me tell the story. Here's the idea. Armstrong's going to go into a nursing home to talk to an old man who's bent over in a wheelchair, a retired admiral. The idea is that Armstrong's known the admiral for years, but the last couple of times, the admiral has no idea who Armstrong is, none. And the last time, the admiral didn't talk at all. So the admiral's wife has said to Armstrong, give it one more try. Here's the scene. Armstrong steps in. Admiral Armstrong reporting for duty, sir. Admiral Armstrong reporting for duty, sir. Armstrong, Navy pilot? Yes, sir. Combat duty? Yes, sir. Korea, sir. I was down to 500 feet, sir. My wing was sliced off. I had to eject. The only reason I'm here, Admiral, the wind blew me into a rice paddy, not the sea. What's your latest duty? Moon, sir. Moon, where's that? The moon, sir, the moon. 3 of us, sir, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and myself. Took us 3 days to get up there, and now the question is, can we land on the moon, sir? Nobody had. So 2 of us, Buzz Aldrin and myself, we float into a lunar module we call the Eagle. Wait a minute. A lunar module? What kind of plane is it? It's an unusual flying machine, sir, very small. It's like a cockpit, switches, gauges. Some of the walls no thicker than a sheet of aluminum foil. Triangular window for me, triangular window for Buzz, circular window above us. So, Admiral, we're standing, harnessed to the floor. Why are you standing? 2 seats, Admiral, would weigh 600 pounds, less weight, less fuel. Oh, I should say, Admiral, just a couple of months before, Tom Stafford, he was 50,000 feet above the moon in a lunar module. Stafford. I know that name, Stafford. You go to the academy? Yes, sir, Annapolis. Yeah. Stafford's mother, did you know this, when she was 6, came to Oklahoma in a covered wagon? I did not. Well, it's true. And she lived in a sod house. And now Stafford's 50,000 feet above the moon. Why didn't he land? His lunar module was too heavy, sir. Ours was the first light enough to land and get off. So we get permission to undock, Admiral. And now, Admiral, we're headed down. It's programmed. A programmed descent, meaning the computer is flying this, sir. We get to 40,000 feet and then we're lurching like a drunk, Admiral. The radar kicked in. The radar is correct, but the computer disagrees, so Buzz is trying to get the computer to accept the information, but we're lurching, and then, boo! Master alarm, sir. This could be very serious. Could be an abort. Luckily, there's a smart young guy, Steve Bales, down there. It's a go on that alarm. And then the problem snowballed, Admiral. Our computer is cutting out. Houston's got nothing. Then it cuts back in. They're getting just enough information to keep us going, sir. Boo, another master alarm. But we do make it down to 7,500 feet, sir. Tilt over and, Admiral, I can see the Sea of Tranquility, sir. The cratered plain, sir. Boo, another master alarm. It's a go on that alarm. We get down to 3,000 feet, sir. We're going slow now, maybe 48 miles an hour slow, down to 1,000 feet, and we're in real trouble, Admiral. The computer is flying us blindly into a crater. It's big as a soccer field, sir. And all around it, a bowl as big as Jeep, sir. We're going to bust up. So I take over. I'm flying this. About time, Armstrong. I'm flying this, Admiral. I'm looking for a place to land. I can't find a place to land, sir. I'm skimming over the boulders now, 220 feet. I've got a place to land over there, 90 seconds of fuel. Houston is silent. They know nothing about the crater. I've got no time to tell them, neither does Buzz. We are busy. In all of the simulations, we had landed by now. Then I find a place to land, 60 seconds of fuel left, 60 seconds. I get down to 100 feet. Well, the rocket is kicking up the dust and I can't see. 30 seconds of fuel, I'm down to 50 feet. Sir, 50 feet, and I don't know why, but the module, the Eagle, it's drifting backwards. And I'm wrestling with the sideways motion, Admiral. The contact light turned on. We're on the moon. We have these bubble helmets. Haven't shaved in days, and I turn and Buzz and I shake hands. We're on the moon. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. And? Well, the plan called for us to go to sleep. Asleep, man, you're on the moon. Exactly, sir, we couldn't sleep. We asked permission to get out, they said fine. Admiral, it takes a long time. There's a checkoff list. It's very confined. We got to put on these oxygen packs, and we got to get these hoses. So it takes all this time. So I look up through this circular window, and I think I'm going to see the blackness and the stars. And what I see way up there, Admiral, it's the Earth. And to me, sir, it looks the size of a silver dollar, blue and white and beautiful. When I look through the triangular window at the surface of the moon, it reminds me of the desert. But there's a strange clarity because there's no atmosphere, sir. Well, then I put on these boots to give me traction. And I thought of what I might say when I stepped on the moon. You hadn't thought about it? I'm a pilot, Admiral. My job is to land and I hope get off. It's not to say something, but I thought of something. So finally, Admiral, I'm ready to open the hatch. I wouldn't want to be on the moon. Why is that, sir? Mosquitoes. No, Admiral, it's a vacuum. I made a joke. I got no sense of humor. I made a joke. Go ahead now. I opened the hatch. I pulled the D-ring, so television camera turns on, which means, Admiral, hundreds of millions of people are watching all over the Earth. It's very awkward. I have to back out. I've got the oxygen pack, and I start down the ladder. And then I realize, Admiral, I've got a 3-foot jump. We thought the legs of the module would collapse, but we landed so gently they didn't. So I've got to jump down. Each of the legs has a foot pad. It's like a big, shallow soup bowl. So I jump 3 feet down, and then I jump back up, Admiral, to make sure I could do it, then back down again. I'm on the foot pad, not on the moon, Admiral, holding onto the ladder. One of the scientists, Tommy Gould, he said the moon dust might be a mile deep. I don't want to get on a mile. So I put 1 foot on the moon. It's solid, sir. And I say that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Pretty dull. What would you say to Admiral? Well, my wife liked Thoreau. Thoreau would have said something like, I didn't come to change things, I came to wake the neighbors up. It would have been very good, Admiral, very good. I put both my hands on the landing gear now, Admiral, and I put my other foot on the moon. And then I let go. I took guts. It's a little like learning to walk again, the 1/6 gravity, sir. Use your ankles and the balls of your feet. And Buzz came out. Buzz called it magnificent desolation. I bet Aldrin wanted to be on the moon first. Yes, sir. Yeah, if I'd been with you, I would have slipped you a Mickey. My wife wants to talk to you. The Admiral's wife, beautiful woman, maybe 10 years younger. She'd been a brilliant professor. She said, Neil, I remember the day the three of you lifted off, that summer day. Never forget it. The crowds and the sound, but mostly that white fire that lifted you up. I've thought about it ever since. You know what I think that white fire that lifted you up was made of? I don't mean combustion. I think that fire was made of the passion, the commitment, the effort of 600,000 people. All of the engineers and scientists and managers and secretaries and security people. That's what lifted you up, yes ma'am. And I think that white fire was made of the hopes of hundreds of millions of people that should make it. That white fire was made not just by great minds like Einstein. That white fire that lifted you up was made by every child who's ever wondered, where does a frog go in the wintertime? And how could there be a bit of purple and green inside an icicle? Why does a crow sound different from a blue jay? And that fire that lifted you up was made of the courage of Amelia Earhart and the Wright brothers and Lindbergh. And that fire was made by Leonardo da Vinci. It was made by people 40,000 years ago, Neil, who took torches and went into caves and made paintings. That's the fire that lifted you up. Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, you know, when we got back, NASA sent us to countries all over the earth, and people would run up and they would never say, you did it. They would say, we did it, we did it. Well, Armstrong, that was the high moment of your life. Certainly one, sir. What do you mean, certainly one? When I was at Purdue, Admiral, I met Jan and fell in love. That's quite a moment, Admiral. 3 children. How are your children? My boys are fine, Admiral. My daughter died of a brain tumor before she got to be 3. Ah. The old Admiral, he took Armstrong's hand. Well, it must have hurt. My wife will see you out. Oh, Armstrong, yes, sir. Listen, you're a fine man. One thing, though, yes, sir. Work on your sense of humor. Yes, sir. Outside, the Admiral's wife said, Neil, I might not see his fire again, but I saw her today. Thank you. So, Jack, that's it. That's the second story. What do you think? Jack got up and said, well, Kate, I mean, it's fine, but I asked you as a favor not to be dramatic. Jack, I'm an engineer. I design things for a purpose. At MIT, we're having a general audience, not just engineers and scientists. And this is who I am, Jack. Now, I want to hear, what are you going to do? I'm not ready. I'm going to run along a little early. All right, Jack, wait. Take some eclairs. Take 2 eclairs. I'll see you next Thursday. And then I want to hear what you're going to do. The next Thursday, Jack came up. He stepped in. He was wearing the tweed jacket. He had a tie and shirt that was no present. All right, Jack, sit down. Listen to me, and then I want to hear everything you're going to do. So I will say to the audience, this is my 3rd true story. And it begins in 1951 in Columbia Point in Boston. Columbia Point's a little spit of land on the edge of Dorchester Bay. It's far from downtown Boston. The story begins with a 3-year-old girl on a tricycle, an adventurer. And the girl bumps onto the street. Maybe she thinks the buildings far away in Boston are castles. So she's on the street and the neighbor says, hey, Krista, get off the street. The neighbor runs out and brings her home. Krista Corrigan is her name. Jack, let me just tell the story. Krista Corrigan, an adventurer, and even at 3, she loves music, so she's close to her dad, Ed Corrigan. Ed Corrigan, Navy veteran, studying at Boston College, loves the piano. So Krista grows up with her dad playing and Krista singing. When she gets to high school, she loves Bob Dylan. She takes up the guitar. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The Beatles, Joan Baez. When she's 21, she marries Steve McAuliffe. And in her early 30s, Krista McAuliffe truly blossoms. She's teaching American history at Concord High School in Concord, New Hampshire. One of her students said later, Mrs. McAuliffe didn't stand for intolerance and all the bullies knew it. And that student said, I remember the day she used the word gay, and she said she knew gay people. And the student said it was as if a rock was lifted off my cheek. At least one person accepted me for who I was. Krista McAuliffe was a fresh wind. She helped raise money for the hospital and for the Y. She was in community musicals. She powdered her hair and she was Grandma Green Thumb in a musical. On the one hand, she volunteered to teach catechism. On the other, she was a receptionist for Planned Parenthood. But her greatest focus was her children. She wrote in her journal, how could 2 kids be so different? Scott is 5. Last night, he turned off Sesame Street because a cartoon cat was eating a cartoon mouse. And Caroline's 3, she doesn't ask, she demands. A couple of years later, she wrote in the journal, I was getting my hair done, so I brought Caroline along. I'm sitting there getting my hair done, looking in the mirror. I'm thinking, what ploy will Caroline use to get the woman beside her talking? She saw Caroline turn and say to the woman, you have very nice pearls. Where did you get them? I'd like pearls like that. 1984 in August, Steve and Krista driving through Concord. President Reagan's on the radio. We're sending a teacher in space. Steve said, go for it. Krista loves space. So she got the application, but she didn't fill it out. Krista McAuliffe is famous for procrastinating. She comes 15 minutes late to the teacher's meeting with Caroline in her lap, so she put the application off, and Steve said, you gonna fill it out? She sat down with her students. They helped her fill it out. But the essay is something she had to do all by herself. 5 times she wrote the essay. In developing my course, The American Woman, I learned that the journals of ordinary people tell a fuller story of history. Like the pioneers on the Conestoga wagons who kept journals, I, as a pioneer in space, will keep a journal. She mailed it February 1st, 1985, last possible date. What chance does she have? 11,500 teachers applied. What chance? But she made the cutoff. 114 teachers make the cutoff. And tomorrow all of them are going to fly to Washington, D.C. So Krista got Scott. Caroline settled. She wanted an early night's sleep, but there was a knock on the door, opened the door. There was a high school student there, a young woman, almost hysterical. Mr. McAuliffe, please let me in. I think I'm going to kill myself. Please, can I come in? She brought the young woman in and said, can I call your parents? You can call them if you promise. I don't have to spend the night with them. I promise. So the parents come, they talk for hours. The parents leave, the student is still there. 3 in the morning, she finally gets the young woman to sleep. Krista wakes up early, cup of coffee, flies to Washington, D.C. She is chosen to be the teacher in space. Brum, brum, boom, boom, boom. There's a big parade in Concord, New Hampshire. And the press is coming from Japan, coming from the BBC, NBC, ABC. Krista is becoming famous. 6 months before the Challenger is to lift off, Roger Beaujolais, an engineer working for the Morton Thiokol Company in Utah, writes a memo to senior management. If we don't assign a team immediately to solve this problem, there'll be a catastrophe, loss of human life. He's talking about the O-rings that seal the joints in the solid rocket booster. Several times the hot gas is burned by. Krista, of course, knows nothing of this. Krista is worried about meeting the crew. She's getting all the publicity. She meets Dick Scobie, the commander of the mission, 6'1", handsome, a former fighter pilot, Vietnam, and he says, Krista, these are not firecrackers that lift us off. This is the real thing. She wins him over because she's enthusiastic, she works hard, and she's in this not for fame, but to teach. And he realizes that. And one day he takes her aside. Krista, this will always be remembered as the teacher in space mission, and we're proud of it. After several delays, on January 28th, the Challenger is to lift off. January 27th, NASA calls Morton Thiokol. Hey, listen, it's going to be cold in Florida tomorrow. It might be down in the low 20s. Are we safe to launch? The manager says, I talked to my engineers this morning. They're worried about the resiliency of the O-rings. They may not expand in the cold, so it's got to be 53 degrees or higher. Well, listen, we'll have a telephone conference tonight with all of us. So that night, there's a big telephone conference. 36 managers and engineers, NASA, Morton Thiokol. It begins with a long history of the O-rings. And a NASA man finally gets frustrated. He doesn't think Morton Thiokol has proved its case. He says, my God, Thiokol, what do you want us to do? Wait till April to launch? And the manager says, listen, NASA, we're going to talk among ourselves here. We'll be back on the horn in a minute. 4 managers say, we've got to make a managerial decision here, meaning the engineers are excluded. So Arnie Thompson comes forward and he does a sketch. He's afraid the O-ring will not expand. He's not listened to. Roger Beaujolais runs forward with 2 photographs showing the hot gas blowing by the primary ring. He's not listened to. The manager calls back, hey, listen, NASA, we changed our mind. It's safe to launch. The next morning, Krista and the crew are woken at 6:20. They have breakfast together. There's a weather briefing. It's 25 degrees out with the wind chill at single digits. Dick Scobie leaves everyone outside, into the cold, down the concrete ramp, past the reporters. And one of the NASA quality assurance inspectors says, hey, Krista, I got an apple. Here you go. She says, save it. I'll eat it when I get back. At 8:30, the crew is strapped in. They're sitting on their backs. They're waiting 3 hours, and out in the cold, Krista's dad, Ed Corrigan, is there with Krista's mom, Grace. And it's cold and it's shivering, but at 11:38, Challenger lifts off, and it's magnificent. That white fire up and up for a minute, and then Ed Corrigan, a few seconds later, he sees a yellow plume and then a fireball. And then he sees debris of the Challenger coming out of the fireball. And then silence in this tower of white smoke. She's gone. She's gone. And Jack got up and said, "Why the hell would you do that? We got 1 hour at MIT. You're not going to talk about death. I am going to talk about Christa McAuliffe, Jack, because millions of people will never forget that moment." There was a reporter on the San Diego freeway. He said that at that moment, all of the cars slowed down at the very same second. I'm going to do it because Christa is the ordinary person. She's all of us, Jack. Maybe the best of us, but she's all of us. If we remember Christa, we remember all of the crew of the Challenger, all of the crew of Columbia. We remember Gus Grissom, Ed White, Roger Chaffee. And I'll do it because this is exploration. It's dangerous, Jack. Magellan set out with 5 ships. Did you know that? He died. Did you know that? He died along the way. 1 of his ships made it back. 1. Just under 3 years, with 22 of the original 280. It's dangerous. And this is 1,000 times, 100,000 times more complicated. And finally, Jack, I'm going to do this. This is science. I have to have the courage to tell the truth. Oh, Kate have to have the courage to tell the truth. Oh, Kate, you're full of courage. Kate, we're in love 2.5 years, and you walk into my apartment. Here's your ring, Jack. It won't work. You didn't have the guts to stand there and talk it out. You're right. I'm scared. Jack, my mother, when she was a freshman in college, 18 years old, was a brilliant pianist. Mom thought she might be great. Dad was a senior in college, and Dad said to Mom, "Take a couple of years off and we'll get the hardware store going." So she did. Then I was born. Then my brother was born. Mom never got back. You know what a terrible stroke Dad has had. His mind doesn't work. You know that. He doesn't talk. You know what Mom's life is? Mom wheels Dad into the hardware store. That's her life. Her one free day is Sunday. I've watched her at home. You know what she does at home? She washes the walls, Jack. I think she washes the walls to make the walls disappear. Okay, we're on Sunday at 7 o'clock. Be there at 6 for a sound check. The next night was Friday night. There was a knock on Jack's apartment door, and the door flung open, and in came Cynthia Moss. Cynthia Moss was not to be trifled with. Kate's apartment mate. She went right to Jack. She looked eye to eye, and she said, "I don't know what went on between the two of you last night, but Kate is very upset, and she's got the GREs tomorrow. I'm here to find out, what are you going to do Sunday night at MIT, Jack?" Well, for your information, Cynthia, I might read a long list of the accomplishments of Jet Propulsion Laboratory and explain a few of them in a way that even you could understand them. You condescending ass. What happened to you? You used to be such fun, Jack. Singing all the time. You'd come up the stairs singing. We called you the Pavarotti Lobsterman. I know what you're going to do at MIT. You're going to come out on the stage with your tweed jacket and your tie. You're going to have your fake half glasses. You're going to hide behind the podium. Then you're going to stutter till we're sorry for you. And then you're going to bore us. Well, I'm bringing celery. You bore us, I'm going to eat the celery. And if you dare to condescend to us, I'll throw the celery at you. Don't ruin this for Kate. Sunday night at MIT, 7:15, Kate was backstage. She peeked out, and there was a good house, a good crowd. And Cynthia was in the front row wearing her green wig, and she had something in a paper bag on her lap. She heard something, turned. It was Edith Whiteside. "I read about this in the Boston Globe. You gave me a leaf, I give you a rose. Take us to the stars." And that's exactly what Kate did. She told the audience about being 5 years old and her dad being a poet. Blackness and the stars, Kate. They're not just above us, they're all around us. And the audience was intrigued to hear about a 5-year-old Cherokee boy who had a vision and had the courage to stay with it. When she finished the story, she told them that J.C. Heigl was an engineer at NASA 40 years, and he established a society to support and encourage Native Americans to become scientists and engineers. And they were fascinated to hear how hard that first moon landing was. And maybe more important, they heard that all around the Earth, people said, "We did it!" This was NASA's accomplishment, but it was also humanity's accomplishment. And finally, they were honored. She told the truth about Krista and the Challenger. So now it was up to Jack. Jack came out on the stage with his tweed jacket, shirt and tie, had the half glasses. He stood behind the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, I was thinking of reading a complete list of the accomplishments of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They're responsible for robots. Jack took off the half glasses, took off the jacket, stepped out in front. Sounds wicked boring, doesn't it? My first memory of the stars is when I was 5 or 6. My granddad's lobster boat, 4 in the morning off Portland, Maine. My granddad said, "Some people go to offices. My office mates are the stars." My granddad taught me celestial navigation. I found out I was good with numbers, and my dad taught me piloting. Physics is the push and pull of things, like lobstering. Push the pot out and you pull it in. You got to pay attention in both. I'm going to tell you one story about the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I selected this because it's a marriage of science and imagination. Seems to me that's what NASA does best. My story begins in 1965 when space exploration was pretty new, and it begins with Gary Flandreau, Caltech grad student. Gary Flandreau is also working for JPL. So Gary Flandreau's in his office, JPL, and he's paying attention. Gosh, oh my gosh. Flandreau, he realizes the outer planets, the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, are going to be lined up on one side of the sun in a way they have not been lined up for 176 years. They haven't been lined up this way since Jefferson's time. And they won't be lined up for another 176 years. And Flandreau, he thinks this is a time for a grand tour of the outer planets. He knows all about gravity assist, of course. You get a spacecraft to come up behind the planet, and the gravity of that planet flings it forward at a tremendous speed. A grand tour. Well, the scientists are very excited. A grand tour. Remember, this is 1965. Getting to Mars is hard enough. Getting to Mars is difficult. When Mars is at its closest, you all know it's 35 million miles away. Well, Neptune, you're talking about 2.5 billion miles. Is it possible? Nobody knew. And Congress said, it's too expensive. Cut it back, cut it back. Maybe you can go to Jupiter and Saturn, that's it. So it's cut back. The engineers and scientists begin to work very carefully with 2 small spacecraft, only weigh about 1,800 pounds. Each of them look like they get a great big television disc. They're working with great care because what if? They do it so carefully. These spacecraft that are going to be called the Voyagers make it to Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. Is it possible? 1977, they're going to lift off, and this is where imagination comes in. January 1977, Carl Sagan, the astronomer, says, why don't we send a message with the Voyagers? What message should we send? He talks to Lewis Thomas, the biologist, and Lewis Thomas says, well, why don't you send all of Bach? And he says, no, that would be boasting. Sound. They're going to send pictures, but sound, that's an idea. Sound, how would we send sound on a copper record, gold-plated, that will last at least 1 million years? Sound. What sound should we send? Hello, let's send hello, just hello in 55 languages. Hello, hello. And sounds of the earth. Yes, sounds of the earth. Frogs and whales and Morse code and the sound of thunder and the sound of rain, the sound of a baby crying, sound of a human kiss. And music. We'll send Mozart and Beethoven and Bach. More imagination. They call across the country to the World Music Center, Berkeley, California. And then Mr. Brown says, you mean these 2 things are going to go to the stars? Then you got to send Kisa by Kirkar singing Jahan Hat Ho. Who's that? Kisa by Kirkar. She's beloved in Calcutta and all of India. You've got to send her singing Jahan Hat Ho. The door is opening now to music of the world. They talked to Alan Lomax, who spent a lifetime collecting ethnic music. And Lomax says, listen to this. This is a Bulgarian shepherdess song. This is the sound of people who had enough to eat for the first time. Now the door is flung open to music of the earth. Australian horn and totem music, Pygmy Girl's initiation song, Melanesian panpipe, Chinese chin music, Japanese flute. But this takes time, and now there's 3 days left, and the list has got to be closed. They call across the country. Mr. Brown, we've got only 3 days. We've tried libraries, record stores. We can't find this Kisa by Kikar. Find it! Now there's 2 days left. Mr. Brown would find it! Imagination again. They begin to call Indian restaurants all over. And one of them says, yes, New York City, Lexington Avenue in the 20s. There's an appliance store run by an Indian family. Go into the appliance store. You will see a card table with a mattress cover. Underneath the card table is a carton. In the carton is a record of her singing that song. They get it. And they get President Carter to send a message. He says, this is a present from our small planet. And I like that. Seems to me maybe we're growing up. Instead of taking everything from the universe, we're giving something back. So the voyage is August. One of them lifts off September the 2nd with 55 hellos. Bonjour, ciao, ni hao, shalom, salam, wa salam, hello, we want to say hello. I want to say hello to you. There's a flyby, 1979, Jupiter. And again, the scientists are excited. They discover one of Jupiter's moon, Io, turns out to be the most volcanic body in our solar system. We had no idea. And then another moon, Europa, another moon of Jupiter, covered with ice, but underneath the ice may be a salt sea bigger than the Atlantic and Pacific put together. There may be life in Europa. And the Voyager sails on, hello, Saturn. And then January 24th, 1986, a flyby Uranus. They made it, Uranus. 4 days, January 24th through 28th, Uranus. And on January 28th, 1986, on the East Coast, the Challenger explodes. And the Voyagers sail on. Hello, we want to say hello. The Berlin Wall falls, the Voyagers sail on. Hello, Nelson Mandela, released from prison after 27 years, and the Voyagers sail on. Hello. 2 Russians, 1 American live 136 days in space. Living in space has begun. Cooperation in space has begun. Hello. We want to say hello. The Hubble telescope is launched. Blurred vision. It's the joke of late night television. But the blurred vision is corrected. And through the Hubble telescope, we see objects 12 billion light years away. We see the dance of the universe as it's never been seen. And the Voyagers sail on. Hello. February 14th, 1990, Voyager 2 is beyond Pluto and sends back a photograph of our solar system. In that photograph, the Earth is no bigger than the eye of a goldfish. It's a speck. And on that speck is everything we love. And the Voyagers sail on. Hello, the Clinton years. Princess Diana died. The year 2000, my dad, a lobsterman in Maine, he walking across the street in Portland, he collapses, he's dead of a heart attack. We had our ups and downs, but I loved him and I'm shaken. And the Voyager sails on. 9/11, the whole country is shaken, and the Voyager sails on. Hello, I want to say hello. 2003, I come to MIT wondering, am I good enough to get a PhD? I'm scared to death. I meet a young woman, engineering student. We fall in love and the Voyager sails on. 2004, 2 rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, set down on Mars. They're expected to go 3 months and stop because the solar panels are going to be covered with dust. Surprise. The wind on Mars blows the dust off. And the rovers keep going. Hello, we want to say hello. Cassini begins to orbit Saturn. We see the rings in Saturn as clearly as you see the grooves in a record. The Voyager sails on. I get engaged. I'm a stuffed shirt, and she calls it off and breaks my heart. My left fist is the sun, and my right is the Earth, 93 million miles. Where are the Voyagers? They're not even in the room. They're downtown. The Voyagers 10 billion miles from the sun. You probably all know about the solar wind. It's really particles streaming out at 1,000,000 miles an hour and more, forming a great big bubble our whole solar system is in. Some people call it a heliosphere. Bubble is a better term. In 6 or 7 years, the Voyagers are going to leave our solar system. They're going to reach the Oort cloud in the year 26,000. They're going to make the closest approach to the star Sirius in the year 296,036. And they're going to pass the 12 nearest stars in the year 1,000,000. And who knows, maybe some civilization will find one of them play the golden record. They'll hear Kisa by Kirkar, Melanesian panpipes, Pygmy Girl's initiation song. They'll hear Louis Armstrong, a Navajo night chant. They'll hear Stravinsky and Mozart and Beethoven and Chuck Berry. And they'll hear blind Willie Johnson singing Dark Was the Night. And maybe they'll say, these people want to sing. These people want to dance. And I think that'd be just a right ride. Seems to me what we've been doing the last 50 years, we have been dancing our way into the universe. Jack finished. Silence. Edith Whiteside got up and began to applaud. There was a storm of applause. Cynthia jumped up, her green wig fell off. She climbed onto the stage and gave Jack a great hug. 3 weeks later, Jack brought Kate down to Gloucester, Massachusetts. The two of them went out on his friend's lobster boat, way, way out to sea. Stars are brilliant, but the sea was calm. Kate, the blackness and the stars, Kate, not just above us, they're all around us. They're inside us too, Jack. All of the molecules in our bodies were forged billions of years ago in generations of stars. Jack, let's get married. You're serious? Of course I'm serious. Scared, but I love you. I've even thought about the wedding food. I want pizza and eclairs. And Jack, I want to be married on Mars. Well, I'll take you in my lobster boat. That'd be all right. That'd be fine, Jack. And why not? Why not? Why not?